All right, a lot of you might be aware of the the general, how should I say, the general view that Asian students do really well academically. Sounds like a really great thing, and the problem is that I don't see anybody really talking about what the price of all this academic excellence is. What is the side effect? Why is it happening? And is it really as nice as they like to make it seem? As if, yeah, you would expect Asian folks to suddenly all be great students, do really well academically, and of course, move on to better and better paying jobs and all that kind of good stuff. And is it really as good as it seems? And I'm going to move ahead to just talk about number one, my personal experience with this, being an Asian who also, well, to be honest, I'm Chinese, so it might be a little different for the other different nationalities of Asians and different flavors, but from what I've seen so far, it doesn't look like it's all that different amongst the different groups. So, generally, my particular experience has been that my parents basically drilled into my head from as far back as I can remember that it's absolutely necessary for you to go and get good grades. You grow up, you get a good job, and you'll be able to make lots of money. That was the big thing. Now, the flip side of that is that there was this huge pressure and drive for you to get those good grades. You had to succeed because that was the way that you got any sort of parental affirmation, any sort of affection, or anything of that sort. But the strange thing about it is that you're looking for some sort of pat on the back and say, hey, you did a good job, you got an A, that's great. But the funny thing is you bring your report card to your parents and they overlook all the A's you got and they point out that one B or C that you happen to get in gym class. And shoot, I mean, I'm smaller than most of everybody else in the world, at least having grown up in a Caucasian world in the United States. I'm smaller. Maybe I'm not as fast. And shoot, I spend most of my time sitting back and studying as opposed to going out and playing ball. So, so I didn't do so well in gym. And so I bring home the report card with all A's, one B, and suddenly that B is a big problem. And there it is. I mean, can you get all A's? Yeah, I think some Asians do, but I wasn't that smart, or I just couldn't bring myself to be that diligent about every single thing, and so I wasn't. So that brings us to the problem that comes along with this, and that is, it's a kind of grim thought about teen suicides and essentially the relentless pursuit of perfection when in fact we're all human beings and there is no perfection. And so, at least in my case, I didn't commit suicide. I got through it. And I'm not saying that everybody else did, or anyone else did for that matter. But I certainly lived with a whole lot of problems within myself and having to deal with this sense of inadequacy that always walked around with me. And looking at how Asian people act in general, I don't think I was alone. And seeing, other groups of Asians, whether it's the Japanese especially, or people from Singapore, as this article talked about, I don't think I'm alone. I think we all live with some degree of that kind of feeling of inadequacy. And I think it comes to the fact that we're not perfect. And yeah, while you go through elementary school, you might get all A's. You get into your junior high, middle school, and you find the competition's more. There's more kids, and suddenly maybe you're finding it a lot more difficult to be top of your class. You get to high school, the pool gets even bigger. It's even more difficult to be the top of your class. Then you do well, you go to a good college, and guess what? The pool suddenly gets bigger, and it's even more difficult. And the reality is that there's only one top spot. And the strange thing is, no matter how high you get to that top spot, For some reason, Asian parents like to come up to you and say, well, you could have done better. Maybe they hint at you should have done better. In the end, what you're left with is that feeling of inadequacy. And that's just how it is. I mean, in my case, I had to compensate for that, and I became a sort of a yes man, and I was always looking for other people's approval. And I think that's not a very healthy way to live your life, no matter, what you do. I've also encountered some people who went the opposite way, and they happen to be able to get that top spot, and they become these real arrogant screwballs. And I don't think that's a smart or decent way to live your life either. So, anyway, long story. Now you're in this situation. Let's say you're an Asian. Good God. Now you're in this position. You have this. You walk around with these feelings of being inadequate. Some cases you don't even know why, but this is the reality. You do. You got it. This is the situation, and hopefully, if you listen to what I've been talking about up till now, maybe this resonates within you, and you already know that this is what's going on in you, as it did in me. So, where are you going to turn to for help? How do you fix this? And I'm going to tell you honestly, I did not go to any sort of psychologist to try to analyze my brain and try to figure something better out. In my generation, it was not something that's acceptable. And to be honest, even today, I would say that's probably not a good way to go. Why? It costs a lot, and after having studied psychology, I found that, my own psychology instructor told me that all psychology can do is exchange the bad behavior that you have, or the bad whatever issue, with another kind of issue that's not as dysfunctional. So I was like, all you could do is trade something bad for something else that's not as bad. So, at any rate, to me, that wasn't good enough. I needed something better. So, of course, I tried the self-help stuff. I read all kinds of self-help books. I tried all kinds of different things, all the different weird psychobabble things that they recommend that you try. Did it help a little bit? It might help for a minute or two, but in the end, you're still stuck with who you are. You're still stuck with the memories of what you went through with your parents and what they taught you and what they told you. So, and this is where it's going to sound hokey, but I'm going to give it to you really straight. I actually found a solution. And I'm going to share it with you now. It's a very simple solution. You have to, number one, identify what your problem is. And if you've gotten to this far, you already know what the problem is. If this somehow resonates in your heart, you know this is the problem. You know this is the issue. Great. Your first step is over. And in a lot of ways, that's the hardest step. The second step is you actually need to ask for help. Now, I know I said that I didn't believe in going to psychologists, and I also didn't believe in these self-help books and novel or whatever else you're going to do. So no, self-help is not going to help you. But I'm going to tell you something. Jesus Christ will. Now, for those of you who aren't Christians, I'm going to tell you, if there's any one thing in your life that you could do, if you happen to live with this, I'm going to say from personal experience, if there's anybody who could have helped me, I would have given them anything. It's worth any price. But I'm here to say that if you will pray and ask Jesus Christ to come into this area of your life, to heal this kind of hurt in your heart, He's willing to do that for you. Above and beyond anything that you've ever heard, I think this is the number one most important thing that you can do for your life. I lived a whole lot of decades of my life not knowing this. I've lived a whole lot of decades of my life being a Christian and not knowing this. But the day came, not that long ago, when I did ask Jesus to come into my life in this area. And He did. And He healed me. In only a span of a few short months. Now, for me, the healing was almost instantaneous, but it took me a few more months to actually get to the point where this thing was not something that I really remembered with such pain. And so I just wanted to share that with you today. So that, in the hopes that if you're a Christian, then this is your ticket away from this problem. If you're not a Christian, then I'm here to tell you, I don't care what the heck the world says. I don't care. It doesn't matter who says what. What I'm just letting you know is this is something that you can have, and it's free, and it's not hard. And all you have to do is, in your heart, all you have to do is say, Jesus Christ, come into my heart and come into my life. And I need you to come into this area of my life with this feeling of inadequacy, this pain that I've been living with. Please come into my heart. Heal me of this. Because you have the power to do it. Because you've done it before for other people. And I believe you can do it for me. That's all you have to do. Simple thing, but sometimes that's about the most complicated solution that we can deal with, because I tried everything else. Anyway, I hope this has been of some help to you. And if it is, then please like and subscribe, and please feel free to comment below. Let me know if this was actually helpful to you. Thank you.